I never thought a single late-night drive could change the way I understood love, loyalty, and the quiet suffering people hide behind forced smiles. But the night I dropped my drunk coworker home, something happened, something I still think about every time I close my eyes. And if I'm being honest, I didn't know whether to call it a blessing or a heartbreak. It started after an exhausting Friday shift. Everyone wanted to celebrate the end of a chaotic week, and as usual, my coworker Sam was the first to raise his glass. He was the loud, funny guy at the office, the one who kept spirits high even when nothing was going right. But that night, something felt different. His jokes were forced, his laughs were too loud, and the way he finished drink after drink wasn't celebration, it was escape. When the bill finally came, Sam tried to stand, stumbled into a chair, and mumbled some apology none of us understood. His keys fell from his hand, and everyone stepped back with that guilty silence of people who care, but not enough to take responsibility. I sighed, picked up his keys, and said I'd drop him home. Maybe it was empathy. Maybe it was the quiet fear of watching someone fall apart and feeling like no one else cared. Either way, I took it upon myself. Sam slumped in the passenger seat, mumbling half-formed sentences, mostly apologies, mostly about things he'd never mentioned before. But one thing he kept repeating was a name, Mia. I'm sorry, I'm trying, I didn't know who Mia was. But I would. Chapter 1. The drive was awkward and silent, except for the occasional sniffle from Sam. It shocked me, this wasn't the loud, confident guy from work. This was someone cracked open, fragile in the worst way. When I reached his house, I expected darkness. Instead, the porch light was on, the door cracked open slightly. Before I could even help Sam out of the car, the door swung wider, and she appeared, his wife, Mia, and in that first second, I understood everything. She looked exhausted, not physically, but in a way that said she'd been carrying someone else's weight for far too long. Her hair was messy, her eyes red, but she had a soft, tired smile when she saw him leaning on me. Oh God, thank you, she whispered, rushing down the steps. She took his arm gently, like she'd done this far too many times. When she tried to lift him, he mumbled her name again, and that's when I saw it, a single tear sliding down her cheek. Not anger. Not frustration. Just a breaking point she'd been holding back for months. Together we guided him inside. Their living room was neat, almost too neat, like someone was trying to keep one part of their life under control when everything else was falling apart. She got him onto the couch, covered him with a blanket, and kissed his forehead. And the way she looked at him, it wasn't pity. It was love. Pure, painful, heavy love. When she walked me to the door, she whispered something that stayed with me. Thank you for bringing him home safely. I didn't think anyone would. I told her it wasn't a big deal. That anyone would have done it. She shook her head slowly and oh. You'd be surprised how many people stop caring once the party ends. Her voice cracked, but she steadied herself. Then she said something I'll never forget. You didn't just bring him home, you brought me hope. Even if it's just for one night. I expected her to close the door and disappear. Instead, she stepped outside, pulling the door gently behind her so Sam wouldn't hear. She leaned against the railing, staring at the quiet street like it held answers she had been searching for. Can I tell you something? She asked. Her voice was barely above a breath. I nodded. He's not always like this. He used to be my safe place. The most gentle man I've ever known. But the pressure at work, his father's illness, the debts, he's been drowning. And every time I try to pull him out, he tells me he doesn't want me to get hurt. She wrapped her arms around herself, fighting back tears, and every time he drinks, I stay awake all night praying someone will help him before he hurts himself. Tonight, that someone was you. She looked at me with a softness I didn't know how to respond to. Thank you for being there for him when he couldn't be there for himself. Then she said something deeper, and thank you for reminding me I'm not alone in this. Her gratitude wasn't romantic. It wasn't inappropriate. It was the gratitude of a woman holding her breaking world together with trembling hands, grateful that, for once, the universe sent help. She invited me inside for tea, not as anything more, but as someone desperate to talk, to unload, to breathe for the next 30 minutes. She told me everything, how strong Sam used to be, how life kept knocking him down, how she'd been fighting for both of them, even when she had no strength left. I listened. Not as a co-worker of her husband, not as a stranger, but as someone who understood that sometimes, people need someone who simply cares. Before I left, she said one last thing. You saved more than just one night. You reminded me that people still help without wanting something in return. That kindness still exists. When I walked back to my car, I felt heavier and lighter at the same time. Heavier with the weight she carried. Lighter because I realized something important. Sometimes the greatest impact you make is in moments no one else sees. As I drove away, I saw her through the window, sitting beside Sam, holding his hand like she had chosen him all over again. And that night, I learned something I'll never forget. A small act of kindness won't fix the world, but it might fix someone's heart long enough for them to take their next breath, and sometimes, that's enough.